After nearly 7 years and no build-up in anticipation whatsoever, Disney has finally deigned to slop out another Star Wars film that will soon play, or has already played, in a cinema near you. So I suppose, on a technicality, that would have to qualify it as a Star Wars movie, and not just an extended episode of a subpar streaming series written by the same crack team that shot out the show. And so what if it's been almost 7 years since the last theatrical release? It's not like Disney was afraid to release another one after The Rise of Palpatine made $1 billion. Even if this did happen to be roughly half of the $2 billion made by The Force Awakens. But let's be fair, it wasn't quite that much of a precipitous drop in box office returns because there was that one movie in between them. You know, the one that only lost $700 million, as well as effectively killing the franchise. So when you look at it that way, that third piece of shit only lost him around $300 million. Which doesn't sound quite as bad now, does it? That's to say nothing of the other movies. They started out quite strong with Rogue One, a spin-off making $1 billion on its own. Then there was Solo. Maybe releasing it about 6 months after The Last Jedi was not the stroke of genius Lucasfilm hoped it would be. What with it being the only Star Wars movie to ever actually lose money. Well, so far at least. Surely these factors had nothing to do with the total absence of any new annual theatrical releases since 2019. Clearly this was the plan all along, with everything going according to schedule. Oh, but what's this? Looks like we were meant to be blessed with many more cinematic abortions scheduled to be released in alternating years between James Cameron copy-pasting his next Avatar sequels. What a mystery indeed, given Kathleen Kennedy was greenlighting projects the way Oprah was giving out cars. Well, whatever could have happened to all these projects? Lucasfilm had the most powerful woman in Hollywood at the helm, so how could she have failed to get even a single project off the ground for over half a decade? I'd hate to accuse Kennedy of being incompetent, because I don't feel that would accurately demonstrate my utter disdain for this retarded bitch. Few are on Kathy's level when it comes to repeatedly snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. But wait, didn't you hear? She's gone. Hallelujah, Star Wars is saved, because now we have Lin-Manuel Brennan and, for fuck's sake, Dave wannabe but never will be a cowboy Filoni, along with his fucking hat.
That fucking hat. That fucking hat. How many times have I told you? Don't wear that fucking hat here. And I'm telling you that I want you to keep that shit kicker hat at home.
Both are now serving as co-presidents of Lucasfilm, and for some reason, many fans are celebrating this like it's a win, glossing over the fact that apparently old Kathy's job was so complex that one person couldn't possibly fill her shoes. They've deluded themselves into thinking Kennedy's hand-picked successors will be the ones to turn things around, and that Filoni will suddenly reveal some never-before-demonstrated competence or talent in writing.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Well, spoiler alert for ya, that's not gonna happen. Filoni is a joke. The more he's involved in the writing process on any given project, the worse it is. The Clone Wars was mostly written by other writers, with Filoni serving mainly as showrunner. And although my problems with the Clone Wars are many, it may as well be Shakespeare when compared to the drivel that is Ahsoka, a show that Filoni wrote every last episode of. So, if ever you needed an example to highlight Filoni's staggering lack of talent, Ahsoka delivers in spades, in all the ways it fails at literally everything else. This is the guy who took Thrawn, a genius tactician and one of the most beloved characters from the expanded universe, and turned him into a complete retard.
What a rare sight. Almost like the Jedi of old. Recall the gunships. Call off the aerial pursuit. These are unfortunate, but acceptable losses given the absence of Lord Balin. In the grand scheme of things, one might even call this first match with Tano a success.
I see this as an absolute win.
No. See, I was only pretending to be retarded. So in fact that you believed I was retarded is actually somehow a victory for me.
Filoni isn't capable of writing an intelligent or deep character, nor can he tell a story with any level of complexity beyond one written for children, often resorting to key jangling and member berries. And what he does write is often self-indulgent, favoring his own created characters to the detriment of all else. He's even happy to disregard established canon whenever he feels like it, and as a cherry on top, he seems to have no problem stealing ideas and characters from the expanded universe, then serving them back up to us in his typical inferior manner. It's also been reported that, allegedly, behind the scenes, Filoni's expressed he doesn't care for Andor. Whether or not this is true, we'll probably never know. but I can't really think of a stronger endorsement of a show's quality than having it be disliked by Filoni. Because, try as he might, regardless of how much he sharpens them, once he puts those crayons of his to paper, he could never write something even 1/10 the quality of Andor. But alas, this video is not meant to be specifically about Filoni. That's a rabbit hole it could make for its own video, and maybe someday it will. That said, Dave is at it again, bringing us The Mandalorian and Grogu, but this time he's combining his deficit talents with Jon Favreau. And you might be forgiven for thinking this would somehow balance things out, that Favreau would rein in Filoni's retardation and make a decent movie. Sadly, once again, we already have our answer. Of the 24 existing episodes of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau is credited as the writer on 20 of them, 17 as the sole writer, and 3 times as co-writer, with Filoni being the other writer for 2 of them. And while it, for some reason, does have its defenders, The Mandalorian is not a well-written show, with Season 3 being particularly terrible. So bad, in fact, years ago I started working on a video ripping this garbage season to shreds. Unfortunately, I never got around to completing it. Now, with the movie on its way, it seems as good a time as any to get it finished and released for all to see. So keep an eye out for that coming soon. I'd say this movie was a disaster waiting to happen, but I think that ship has already sailed. It's already a disaster, but Disney's gonna go ahead and release it anyway. Early test screenings seem to be garnering a resounding middling reaction from audiences, while early box office predictions are comparing it to Solo, which is really not a place you want to be. It's crazy to think, after all the failed projects and all the years that have passed, The Mandalorian and Grogu is the movie they've decided to mark their return to the cinema. After spending the past several years having retreated back to Disney Plus, releasing an onslaught of garbage content, which is basically everything that isn't called Andor, to a service they own where conveniently they don't have to share their viewership numbers. This time, however, with the movie in theaters, they can't hide the numbers, so it'll be very interesting indeed to see how this thing performs. While Disney doesn't publish their numbers, there was a recent Nielsen report from May of last year, which really paints a picture. Of the top 10 most streamed Star Wars titles, Andor was actually number 1. Which makes sense since Season 2 had just been released around this time. Well, that and it was actually good. The next 6 spots are taken up by the original and prequel trilogies. Even Rogue One was getting some views, likely also boosted due to Andor's popularity. Tales of the Underworld was actually released on May 4th, with the Clone Wars rounding out the list at number 10. What's more interesting though is what isn't in the top 10. Or to put it a better way, what people aren't watching. Namely, Disney's worthless sequel trilogy, or any of their trash shows, which, pertinent to the topic of this video, includes The Mandalorian. Honestly, I have no idea what Disney is thinking. There's absolutely nothing about this movie that screams it even needed to be a movie. It looks like it's 3, maybe 4 episodes of the show stitched together and called a movie. Every trailer for this thing makes me feel like I'm just watching a higher budget version of the show, with more childish storytelling focusing on whatever dumbass idiocy Grogu is getting up to at any given moment. It doesn't feel cinematic or convey a sense of grandeur, it just falls flat. Even more baffling was the Super Bowl trailer, a 30-second spot that's estimated to have cost upwards of $10 million. But rather than using that time to show anything of what to expect from the actual movie, some galaxy-brained idiot decided it would be better to actually flush that money down the drain in favor of referencing some old beer commercial.
Not a great plan.
Suffice to say, audiences seemed confused. I would say it would have been better to use that time to show a clip from the movie, but having now seen all the clips they've chosen to release, on purpose for some reason, let's just say they didn't really have a best foot to put forward. Speaking of the clips, one of them features 2 Hutts speaking English.
Mandalorian, still priceless on the black market.
It will bring us ecstasy to watch your strong spirit break.
I hope I don't have to explain how stupid this is, but since Dave and John don't seem to understand, Hutts don't speak English, or Basic as it's called in Star Wars. Not because they can't, but because they consider themselves and their language, Huttese, superior. This is such a simple thing that they should not have been able to get wrong, but they did, and it looks wrong. I hate it, and yes, I know they did it in the Clone Wars as well. I hated it then too. It was just easier to ignore when it was in some animated show I already had issues with. Also, what the hell is Sigourney Weaver doing in this? I mean, yes, she's an actor who can be cast like anyone else, but this so clearly comes off as a desperation move, like they're grabbing at anything they can to give this thing any sense of legitimacy, wanting audiences to be reminded of Alien. Don't believe me? I present you Exhibit A.
Get away from him, you bitch!
Wow, good character recall. I peed myself a little.
This shit is downright embarrassing. But there's actually an even more unusual casting choice. So when you're writing the movie and you've created a CG alien character, realizing you'll need to cast a voice actor for it, what possible leap in logic is there that leads to, oh I know, let's get famous film director Martin Scorsese on the job? This one's not even really a criticism, it's just odd.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Rare W for Ryan. As usual, he made a shit movie, but at least he gave us that single clip. Then there's the name. How good can your movie be when you can't even think of a better title for it? The title, the logo, they feel as uninspired as the movie itself, as though they couldn't be bothered to think of anything better. The Mandalorian and Grogu? You certainly can't have movies named after two characters. Hollywood's had a long history of them. But when you look at those two names, usually they are roughly the same length, and there's a certain flow to them. In this case, the logo doesn't even have a proper flow to it. It could be read, The Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu. Since the character's name is not Mandalorian, it makes less sense to pair it with the actual name of the other character. By that logic, it would have been a better fit to call it Mandalorian and the Kid, or better yet, Mando and the Kid. Even Mando and Grogu flows better, given Mando has been used many times on the show as a nickname. Or, since his real name is Din Djarin, they could have gone with Djarin and Grogu, which again has a better flow, though I imagine Disney would worry nobody would know what a Djarin is, and they'd probably be right since it's only known to people who've watched their shovelware shit show on Disney+. But the best choice would have been to name the movie after something related to the theme or story told in the movie. Surely Dave and John would have had something that would fit their creative vision for this. No? Of course, I gotta give it to Mahler, as I think his title for this thing sums it up best.
And what's the next movie coming out from Star Wars?
They're not returning to those Jedi.
It's based on a series that's not on this list.
Mango and Grog.
Mango and
Grog. Mango and Grog. That's what I want to call it. I cannot say the man. I always say the man do and Grogu or something like that.
That sounds about right. Mango and Grok, everyone. In theaters May 22nd. At this point, the only real hope I have for this movie is that it will at least be better than the sequels. But given that's a bar that's been set at a subterranean level, it'll be truly impressive indeed if it's worse. There used to be a time when, as a Star Wars fan, I still had hope. Now, call me cynical if you want, but having watched Disney and Lucasfilm systematically destroy every last thing I loved about this franchise, assassinating every one of George Lucas's characters along the way, while watching the people responsible being rewarded with promotions to positions where they can do even more damage.
Nah, man, I can't say as I have high fucking hopes where that's concerned.
I hate what Disney's done to this brand. I really do. Star Wars used to mean something. A new movie being released was an event. Now it's belittled to the level of a made-for-streaming movie getting tossed into theaters. After this, we have Star Wars Starfighter coming next year, starring Ryan Gosling, who was recently in the absolutely fantastic Project Hail Mary. Since Starfighter's not being written by Dave or John, who knows, maybe it'll have a chance at being good. And maybe that's the best we can hope for, that once in a while we'll get a show like Andor, while simultaneously trying to forget all roads lead to the sequel trilogy. What a joke Disney's turned this franchise into. As I mentioned previously, after all these years they've spent destroying the brand, it'll be interesting to see how this thing performs. If it does do well, I admit I'll be quite disappointed. Not because it would mean I'm somehow wrong about it, but rather due to the message it would send to Disney. That even if they keep cranking out low-effort slop, audiences will still lap it up. Because, unfortunately, as we've seen many a time, just because a movie makes a ton of money, it doesn't mean it's actually good. And unfortunately, Filoni has already been threatening that this could become a trilogy.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Anyway, this seems as good a place as any to wrap things up. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm curious to hear how you, the viewer, are feeling about the future of Star Wars. Let me know in the comments. Maybe even leave a like and subscribe. Also, keep an eye out in the near future for the video on the train wreck that was The Mandalorian Season 3.